Alright, that's the thing here, back with a new one. And as you can tell from the title, it's about interacting with the police. And I'm just gonna kind of give my personal advice, and just keep in mind that, I'm not no lawyer or anything like that, so this is not professional advice. Alright, it's just personal opinion, okay? And so, basically, there's three things that, I personally would do in interacting with the police, and it's different depending on what kind of interaction I would be having. For instance, if I'm pulled over while driving, or just pulled aside while, out and about in public, whenever they come up to you and ask you like, hey, do you know why I pulled you over? Or do you know why I called you over? Never say all right? Don't say, oh yeah, officer, I know, because they'll probably ask you, okay, well, what is it? And then you'll start listing things off that maybe they didn't pull you over for. And so now you just compounded the problem, or you would confirm in their mind what it is that they pulled you over for, which, depending on which officer you get, and you don't know, right? It could go to their head and become like a ego and power trip where, yeah, of course I'm right, and you don't know how that can go. So I would just say no. Even if you know, or you think you know, whatever, just say no. Let them set the table, let them explain it, and then you guys go from there, And then from that, I would always say that never use like strong affirmations when they're telling you something. Just go neutral, right? So when they're telling you something, be like, oh, okay, or or like, I see, like neutral responses. Whenever they ask you a question, say like, you may agree with it, whatever you say, I guess so, right? Not like a strong yes or no or whatever, just in case, you're being recorded by their body cam or whatever, and you may need to kind of go back on what you said because you realize something was incorrect in what they said, right? At least you can point to like, your unsureness in your responses, or your neutrality in your responses as not going either way, right? So keep it neutral is what I would say if you're like pulled over in a traffic stop, or you're just called aside in public, whatever, just keep it neutral, right? That's the first thing I would say in that situation. And then the second advice I would give is, if you're kind of called into an interview with them, or an interrogation, or even if you're just going into the police station just to, give some, a statement, right? Always have a lawyer. I used to be of the mindset that, okay, if you're innocent, then why do you need a lawyer? And that's what a lot of people like to say too. But no, always have a lawyer if you can get one. I mean, if you're being arrested, then likely you have access to a public attorney. Get them. Get that other person in the room to be able to attest to what was said, and like how things were done and whatever, make sure that everything is by the book. The police are less likely to try something if you have someone else there who's, of the law profession. So get the lawyer, definitely do that. That's like my second piece of advice, don't worry about, how it looks or whatever. I mean, sure, as an officer, it can suck because it can slow down the proceedings of, finding out information, but at the end of the day, you as the individual who's going in or being interrogated or interviewed, whatever, you got to protect yourself and make sure that, things are done properly. And so get that lawyer in there if you can. Now, the third thing I would say is that if you don't want to get the lawyer in, or you can't get the lawyer in, whatever the thing is, then what I would say is you want to play the interview, or the interaction, just like how Soulja Boy played his VladTv interview, a little something like this.
So you on top of the world. You working with everybody. You nominated for a Grammy. Second album got multiple platinum singles. You on top of everything, and then the robbery happens.
Yep.
So what happened previous to that robbery in terms of where you were? Because it was like an album release party or something?
Basically, tell me what you heard.
I heard you were at an album release party, you were at your house, and between 3 and 6 dudes with masks came in with AK-47s.
So basically.
You see that? Like, Soulja Boy was like, all right, tell me what you had, And then you can hear Vlad taking a break and then recalling things, Let them set the table, and then you go in and feast, right? You keep your information within the confines of what they have told you, you know, and what they've laid out. That way, you're not just going off the top of your head and listing off things that, you know, may not need to be known type of thing, you know, because then it can end up being either used against you where they may try and wrap you up in the thing, or they may even try to use it as blackmail, or it may even try to, you know, get you in trouble or someone else in trouble for something that was completely innocuous, right? Harmless. So don't ever just go off the top of the dome. You know, let them set the table, set the scene, set the stage, and then work with the information that they're giving you. You tell them what they've gotten right and what they said, where they've gone wrong, and what they're missing in between those points, right? And keep everything within that confines. You know, you want to stay a bit more on topic than Soulja Boy and not mentioning some club you bought in Atlanta, but you know, you want to be short and sweet, but concise and complete. You know, don't lie by omission. Tell them what it is they need to know within that realm that they've set up, right? And if they want to move outside of it, then okay, have them set up that next outside realm so that you can keep everything pertinent to what it is they're saying. You know, don't just let them bait you into just opening your mouth and talking freely and saying things that, you know, may not need to have been said. So that's what I would say, you know, let them set the table. That's the third thing that I would say is my biggest personal piece of advice in interacting with law enforcement. You know, like always let them set the table. You know, it's similar to the first thing where I said when they pull you over, you say like, oh, you don't know what it is they pulled you over for, even if you may know, right? Let them set the table and say the thing, right? But of course, if they're saying, like in the first example where I said if they pull you over or they called you aside and they're saying something that's not true, right, or that they may be incorrect on, then you can obviously point that out that, hey, no, that's not the case. You know, we want to do that respectfully and carefully. But you know, if they're saying something that's completely erroneous, then yeah, you could say like, no, like you can do those hard affirmations if you know for sure like what they're saying is a complete lie. But if you're unsure, or if you even if you know, right, even if you know what they're saying is true, just keep it neutral anyway. But when you know what they're saying is wrong, then you want to challenge them, you know. But yeah, like those three things, you know, would be my biggest pieces of advice that I would give to people on like interacting with law enforcement, and just what I would personally do too, and what I would recommend to, you know, loved ones as well, is like, that's how I would do it to keep things, you know, on point, and to hopefully speed up interactions and things like that, and to make sure that things aren't going to be twisted or, you know, kind of manipulated and things like that. And to make sure that I don't get manipulated, you know, to even help me stay on track and on point. So you know, that's what I would say. But you know, as always, like I said, it's just my personal opinion, you know, and that's the thing.